You're listening to In the Lead, the podcast for real estate pros looking to grow their business. Whether you're new to the business or a seasoned pro, we come to you each week with the latest technology and online strategies to help you sell more, work less, and make a difference in your community through your real estate business. This show is brought to you by EasyAgentPro, creators of Lead Sites, the ultimate lead generation website for agents. For show notes and links, check out EasyAgentPro/podcast.
Hey, Easy Agent Pros, welcome back to the In the Lead podcast. As you can already hear, Chris is no longer with us after last week's podcast. No, I'm just kidding. He's on vacation this week. So I'm Tyler sitting in for Chris in the host slot. Back to where it started, and I got Robert here with me. It's kind of going to be a founders podcast. Kelvin got sick this week with that March Madness fever, and it's just the two of us sitting here in the studio. How's it going, Robert?
Hey, man, super excited to be here. It's kind of nice to be a little more peaceful, have a little more open mic time today.
Yeah, you don't have Chris poking fun at you every 5 seconds.
Exactly. You know? No talking about green homes today, guys. So.
Yeah, we're not doing any green home talk. Robert and I are not. Well, actually, you're kind of into that whole gardening green home stuff, aren't you?
I'm into gardening. I wouldn't say that's green home. I'm into doing stuff outside that gets you away from a computer.
Interesting. Cool. Well, what we're going to be diving into is some of the things that have made us successful as entrepreneurs and business people, since it just is the two of us today. We actually presented yesterday at this thing called 1 Million Cups. It's a national entrepreneurship organization that brings people together over 1 million cups of coffee to sort of share the knowledge bits that various entrepreneurs have. So in light of that, you can go find that, just Google 1 Million Cups Easy Agent Pro. You'll find it, about a 30-minute video of us presenting of our foundation story. A lot of takeaways for you too, probably in that. So we're going to bring a little bit of that to the podcast, talk about what we did at the beginning, what our big why is, and a little bit of what we do on the day-to-day basics, because I don't think Easy Agent Pro talks about that a lot. We give a lot of strategies, but we don't say what we do on day to day. And I think it's really interesting because I don't even really know how you organize your day exactly, Robert, either. So we'll just sort of break that down. Anything else you think we'll talk about or you want to hit up today?
Well, it was kind of Ty always talks about his pillars of marketing. That's kind of his concept. And it's really cool to be on stage. That's kind of our next avenue and next pillar we're starting to conquer. So I don't know. I think we should talk first about how it went yesterday and why, and kind of what your thoughts on doing public speaking was.
Yeah. So one of the more interesting things about Easy Agent Pro that I think, and this just could be me, but I think it's really interesting to tell people that in January, we went to Inman, and that was the first time anyone at our company saw anyone in the flesh at some sort of networking thing or some sort of face-to-face or some sort of event. And then this was the first time that we really sort of spoke at any sort of conference. And when you tell people that, when you tell agents that, it just sort of blows their mind that you can have a successful business with that little interaction. And for me, that was the big takeaway from yesterday, was that so many people at that place where I spoke, there were 100 entrepreneurs there from high school all the way through, in their 60s and 70s. They're focusing on they're not focusing. They're doing they're going to these events. They're trying to meet people one-on-one. They're so blogging, what do I do there? And they're so social media, are you doing social? And you start to realize that, at least from my perspective, a lot of them are doing a little of everything instead of a lot of one thing. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, and sort of why we started doing this now, is we're seeing that we've built this huge blog resource. We've built this huge help center now. Help.EasyAgentPro has close to 50 or 60 articles in it. That didn't exist 2 months ago. We've built a huge YouTube and EasyAgentPro.tv resource. and even this podcast. And so now when we go to these speaking events, there's so much for people to fall into that it's now the next big like why, right? So for August until about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we focused on Facebook ads, set up 7,000 of them, got a lot of data, know what works there, know what doesn't work there now. And now we're sort of moving into the big why being, well, if we go get on stage somewhere, it sort of helps the whole thing. So I sort of answered your question and sort of like why I think EAP was successful at the beginning. And what I thought was most interesting about that event was, you hear a speech, or for example, I was listening to a podcast this week and it was about some restaurant person and their marketing successes. And you're so excited after listening to an hour of someone who's like this super talented person talk about all these ideas, and you just want to go implement all of them in your business. And I don't know, that's never really worked for us, Robert. Like when we try to do everything, it kind of just falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, it's really finding that fine line between doing a lot of stuff well and starting to do a lot of stuff terribly. Because when you get scatterbrained and you're working on all those things at once, development's one of them where it definitely shows through. You just kind of lose track of. You have your attention is a scarce resource, so it's really important to focus on a certain amount of things and realize that there is a finite amount of juice that you can do. So like picking one and going with it is definitely a better way to not run dry.
And I think there's a certain level of accountability that you need to. So for example, Calvin won't mind this. Facebook Messenger really has come full circle now, and people are using it to message businesses. They're using it to message individuals. And so last Thursday, I was just sort of doing my sweep of the company, and I saw there were about 6 or 7 Facebook messages to our Facebook page that just weren't answered. Some were support-based, some were sales-based, and I got really upset. And so your first instinct there is to blame the person in charge of social media. At our company, that's Calvin. But if you look deeper than that, those messages probably came in and it was just a notification on his phone, probably after hours when he wasn't clocked in. And it was right next to the notification where his girlfriend tagged him in a status, right? Like it's not really his fault. It's more the company's fault for not creating a system that directs those to the right people. So we literally set up this smooch app that takes our Facebook messages, puts them into Slack where our whole company is based, round robins them to salespeople, and then we're able to better service that. Same thing with BeatZilla. We were realizing it had grown so much and we weren't replying to post fast enough. So we built with Zapier this like intense 6-step zap where it pulls in a BeatZilla thing, pulls in all of the people at our company who could reply to it, round robins it to one of those people, and then they have to reply to it. So it creates this accountability where I think most people, it's extreme accountability, really. It's like every problem here is my problem. And I can buy tools, I can get things to help me fix it, but you're the person who this business is directly benefiting. Like all the revenue is yours to manage. And so you've got to take that like extreme accountability to everything you ever discover.
So how'd you put that into a bite-sized lesson for agents? Like where do you see that applying?
Yeah, so it's like I said earlier, like focus and then extreme accountability. So you're probably like, oh my God, I need to go set this up right now. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. But what I would say the bite-sized lesson there is every day, whether you feel like it or not, build something that is full circle, implement it in your business where every day, whether you're here or not, whether you're sick, whether you're vacationing, is running and is creating a positive 2% change. So now if I like go watch a March Madness like tournament game tonight, all of our BeatZilla questions and all of our Facebook messages will be answered by the correct people. I can leave and not worry about that. And it's not something like the halfway solution to that would be pushing all of the BeatZilla questions into a group and not assigning them to anything. Because then, like, after a while, no one's going to reply to them because no one knows if someone replied to them. So that's sort of the halfway measure. That's not full circle. And, like, I think if you it's tough to find your first one, but so start with something super small. But I think if you like start knocking these things out, it's a really empowering feeling, and you start to actually feel like a business owner, not someone just, running a shop.
Well, and then one thing is, I think a lot of people make the mistake of trying to, or being worried about automating stuff before it's actually time to automate. Like when you're running something manually, it's literally the bones of it. And you're doing the task and you're just going to take care of it. And I think I wouldn't worry too much about automating random tasks in your business until they become so repetitive and so when it's time. Like that, it was like the Facebook thing. Like, we used to just get posts and you get a manageable number. So where you're like looking and you're like, oh, we have 15 to respond to today. But then that grows to 30. And like on the 2% theory. So you're basically, if you're improving 2% after 50 work days, you should be at 100% on this process. So it's going to be 100% better. And then in those 50 days is really where you start to figure out, should I automate this or should I not? And then moving on to kind of the bigger picture stuff. Like, is this
And I think the perfect example of this is when we first got started. So back to like the beginning story here. We read an article online that was grow your blog to 100,000 visitors. And to do that, like we focused on one thing, and that was ranking on Google. And while we were doing that, we literally were auto posting our blogs to Facebook, like the worst thing possible. Like we didn't worry about how it looked. We didn't worry about the images. We didn't worry about what it said. We didn't even like get people to like our we didn't even encourage people to like our Facebook page until like a year and a half into the business or something, maybe even 2 years. Like it was just, it's just this, and yet like someone whose site just went live sent me an email yesterday saying like, what's the perfect like thing to post on Facebook? And it's like, yeah, you might not be there yet. You might not be to the point where that actually matters yet. And I think that's what you were like the full circle. You got to be careful because I'm saying do full circle accountability, get 2% better. Robert then says like, yeah, but don't automate things until it's time. And I think that's the story for me that like breaks down. Yeah, Robert's right. Like you don't focus on that shit until it's time. So, like, what do you think was like one of the more successful things we did at the beginning of EAP that maybe crafted where we are today?
Well, I'll tell you. Let's start with things that wasted time. So I'm like graphic design, kind of grammar Nazi, kind of just like meticulous editor. I like things to just look good and be nice, which is nice because I make websites. But sometimes that kind of thinking, like worrying about stuff before there's actually action. Like, is this picture good enough? Is this title good enough? Well, you have 6 likes on your wall, so your chances of just striking gold are pretty low. So I think it's important to focus on the backward stance of how you're going to grow and where you're going to be in 2 months, 6 months, 1 year. And when you start with, like, one of our major keys to success was starting with the end goal in mind and working backwards from that. So if we want 100,000 traffic, what does that mean we have to grow at per month? How much content do you think that's going to require? And what activities are we going to do to share that content? So you kind of start working the numbers, and it's literally as simple as a spreadsheet. Like at 10% growth, this much per month, you're going to end up with a real tangible result. So I think that was one of the best things we did, is focusing on that and then diving deep into that goal. So saying 100K traffic, great. Well, what drives traffic? How do we get more traffic? How can we boost where our inefficiencies at? And all that stuff is really like, we automated. It's funny because we automated the dumb stuff, like the stuff we didn't want to do. Like, we're not focusing on social, just automate it. So you can do Band-Aid solutions. And then as time goes on, you start to, the only way you're going to totally accomplish that goal is if you're doing incremental progress towards it. So I think sometimes people want to be, and I remember looking at other real estate website companies' Facebook page is like, damn, how did these guys get 30,000 likes? Like, we only have like 2.
They bought them on Fiverr.
Yeah, and this has been, yeah, exactly. And this is past the time of when you could buy likes. So we considered it, but we ended up not, because it was just, you know, it could be bad Google penalties and all this stuff. And it's cooler to look back and know that you earned all those likes. But you're going to, and it makes you feel like it kind of slightly inferior, because you obviously don't look as good when on a vanity metric. But what's interesting is that the people that are actually going to engage and act with your brand don't care if someone else has 20,000 likes and you have 1,000. You know, it's like, if you're actually providing that value for them, if you're actually doing good stuff, it's just going to naturally attract people to you. And regardless of your size, you don't have to be the biggest and the best to start getting traction. So I thought,
and one thing you said there that I really want to break down. So you said we planned and put in a spreadsheet, like if we grow this, we'll hit our traffic goal here, right?
Yep. I think that's called Quant, right? So,
yeah, it was called Quant. We stole that from Noah
AppSumo,
Kagan,
yep.
AppSumo, OK Dork, something. And it was just a spreadsheet. But one thing I want to really stress right now is we did that for probably 2 hours in a Google Sheet on one afternoon. And then we executed on that for like 3 to 4 hours a day at first, writing a daily blog, and then scale that down to 3 to 4 hours 3 days a week for about a year. So I think one of the things that was really sort of useful to us was like we work 10 to 12 hour days. I mean, like, I'll say that. Yeah. Like, we work a lot, and I work really efficiently. So, like, I say BS if you think you work more efficiently or harder than me. And Robert too, I'd say. And like, the thing that I want to stress there isn't like bragging, but is that we spent 2 hours planning and then like a whole ton of time executing against that plan. And I think that's where people sometimes, I feel like people spend 60-40, like 60% like theorizing, college thinking about it, and like 40% actually doing it. And I really think it's a lot closer to 99% doing, 1% like the plan.
Well, and when you keep, chances are, you know what you have to do. You've probably, like, if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably read enough stuff to have some hint of it. And what happens when you keep consuming content is analysis paralysis and information overload. So you start getting all these ideas, and this is especially if you're a perfectionist, because this is something that I had to deal with. And it's like, you know, you have all these great things, and they're just little, you see them as little gold mines, and you're like, man, we have to do this. We have to do this too. We have to do this too. And you can build up your list as big as you want, but chances are, the bigger that list is, the least likely it's going to get done. When your only goal for the day is literally an incremental step towards the right direction, that 2%, right? So all I have to do is write a blog today. I have to get X amount of words. It has to be good, but like, that's all I have to do. And that's a step in the right direction. I think that kind of takes away the thinking part, which is really important, because if you're all,
it's super important. It was like generate one blog. It wasn't like for a full 8 months of that time when we were going towards that goal, I didn't even log into Google Analytics, because I knew that if I kept doing the activity, the end result would be there.
Yep. And it compounds over time. And so like, it's really getting, I think the less you think about stuff, like you also have a limited amount of space of stuff you can think about and dream about. So if you're always thinking about doing something different than what you're doing now, you're never going to be satisfied. And you end up we go through, I would say, high level output and low level output phases, where we just go absolutely balls to the wall extreme. And then you kind of get burnt out, and then you end up having to take a couple steps back and watch and see what you did. So I think admitting that the burnout is inevitable is a good step in the right direction, because now you can think of ways to combat that. So you can say, I need to just have my plate full enough, but not too full. And it's like, this is going to make me full enough while allow me to be able to do my normal job without working, 16 hours a day. Like, when we first started, we used to do, it was like 8 to 10 PM. So, I mean, that was like, it was like every day. And it's just insane how how much you can get done during those times and how good that is for you, but then also how to recover from it afterwards. Cause there's inevitably a point where you just hit and you've had enough and you're like, man, right, Ty? Like you just straight.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much. But when you hit that point of burnout is when like it really gets interesting, because you can either go yell at someone for not answering Facebook messages, or you can set up the two.
That's what you were finally
like
burnt out at, wondering why people aren't answering Beatzillow questions. Like,
right. Or messages.
Please,
yeah. And then you build the system.
These. And then you're like, that is really what spurs growth, you know? I read this great book, How Not to Give a Fudge. It's with the FUCK. But basically, this guy's thing is that people always think that inspiration leads to action, and it's really the opposite. That action leads to inspiration. So doing a blogging activity every day leads you to know to be inspired to write better blogs, to figure out more observations about your audience, to figure out better ways to drive traffic. And everyone is always looking for that inspiration. I think when you're grooming through even like a marketing blog, you're looking for inspiration at the next big tactic you can take down. But if you actually just start doing an action first and then allowing natural organic inspiration to flow into that, it ends up becoming a bigger, better thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. So what do you do to like organize your day? Do you use any tools, or like what's your computer look like? What's your desktop look like?
So my desktop is 100% blank. I believe in I'm not going to say.
What's your back? Do you have a mountain? Or?
No, I literally have slightly off black. So I can't stand distractions, and I draw a lot of stuff. So I'm actually pretty disorganized. So I admit that, and I just make myself have just a completely clean workspace. So I try to keep my desk clean. I keep my desktop empty, and then I basically follow the same format every day. I've been reading this new book by Cal Newport. You should check it out. It's called Deep Work. And he's basically a big proponent of, and he shows through all these studies, all these guys like Adam Grant, who've kind of climbed to the top in their fields very quickly. So he's kind of about growth hacking, but he attributes it all to deep work. And basically deep work is stuff you do without interaction from people. It can be if you're working on a team thing, but it's basically not letting, your Facebook feed, your emails, your clients, all this stuff manage your day. So number one, make a spot where you can actually get real deal work done. And it can be from 1.5 to 3 hours. And then he recommends just repeating that every day. So for me, my best time, and I'm working with developers and stuff. Everyone's kind of spread out. So my focus time is really in the morning. I get in at 8:30, and it's basically 8:30 to 11:30, just nothing but focused work. And it's interaction with the development team. But then also the other half of that is I get time to do mock-ups, to do designs, and to actually plan kind of what I'm going to do before I start reacting to stuff. Because if I come in and I every day I walk in and I have like 30 Slacks. So I have a bunch of people.
For those of you that don't know, Slack's like this business internet messaging thing, so it can be on your phone, on your computer, and it's really nice because you can direct message like all your employees or contractors, or you should check it out. It's probably good for your business, but go on.
Yeah, it's like Facebook for business. So you have all your message in there. It's instant messenger. But if I come in and start reacting to like, oh, this font needs to be bolded, I have this little bug I need you to look at, I have this, it literally will hijack my day, and I get done at it'll be like noon, and I'm just completely drained, and I didn't get anything that I actually wanted to do done. I did a bunch of non-reactive work, or a bunch of reactive work that didn't contribute to the 2% per day. And then now I'm left with like the rest of the day to go do admin stuff and manage the team. So I think it's really important to block in time for that 2%. So if you're just counting on that 2% to happen, like, oh, I'm going to go do my whole work day and then I'm just going to write a blog tonight. That sounds nice in like thought, but it really doesn't happen. You end up at 6 p.m. hungry, or maybe just ate dinner, so you're tired, and you're going to go write a blog.
Your
now.
Dog peed on the floor and you got to go clean it up or something.
Yeah, and your girlfriend or wife's talking to you about random stuff and asking you if you want to watch Homeland, and you're like, it's just not going to happen. So I think it's really my point was that if you don't block in time for that 2%, it makes it really tough to get it done. And, then that hurts your compounding interest. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of time blocking, but a little bit different take on it. And yeah, that's interesting. I use Evernote, and basically I create a note for every day. So, for example, right now we always record these on Thursday and then they publish Monday. So I have March 16th.
Once again, blocked time for an activity. Every Thursday at 12, we record no matter what. Chris is gone. Kelvin's sick. Paula is at lunch, I think, right now.
Yep.
But we're just like, we got to do it. It's 12 o'clock. It's time. Didn't mean to cut you off.
So like on my to-do list, I basically have a list of, I guess it kind of breaks down like Robert's, where there's like small admin things and big stuff. So I come in, I have the luxury of working on Central Time, and a lot of people in our company work Mountain. So I have about 9 to 10 is like just me. No one's going to interrupt me. So during that time, I try to get done one big thing. So today, what I built was this whole billing system that basically offloads about 10 hours of work per week from myself onto the team, but it doesn't really create work for them because they were having to do this really complicated thing before, and now they just click one button. So that took a lot of setting up, a lot of thought process, and it was done by 10, and already like 9 to 10, my day was probably more productive than most business owners, probably. Not being cocky, just like that's real. Like, I don't know, right, Robert? Like I don't want to talk too much about it because it's like pretty intense, but like, it was a big project.
Yeah, you got irritated, got inspired, and then took action.
Pretty much. Every time you're irritated, go frickin' fix it or quit.
Well, and take accountability for the stuff that's your problem. You build the system. You're the business owner. You're the one that wanted to be in your shoes. You're the one that wants to be at the top of the pyramid, you know? So it's like, you kind of gotta take blame for all that stuff, because it all really does come back to you. And it's either your management, it's either your systems, it's your accountability. It's all those little things that make it, it's like anything that's super simple is always really complicated, right?
Yeah, or it's even, for example, like sale, like commission, or maybe in a real estate organization, it's like submitting X paperwork every week, like your weekly sales paperwork. Like when does that need to be submitted by? Well, if it's at the same time every week, you should set up a Slack through Zapier that auto sends every Friday at 2 saying, hey, everyone, get your accountability sheet in this week. Here's the link to submit it. Here are the rules for submitting it. If you don't submit it, this is what happens. Then what you've done is you created a full circle system that keeps everyone accountable. You could onboard me to your sales team tomorrow, and Friday I'd see the frickin' message, and I know I have to do that. And you wouldn't have to tell me. You wouldn't have to spend time explaining it to me because it's like there. And so like that's just one really crystal clear example in my mind that I always remember, that you can build into your ecosystem that lives forever, that benefits you forever, while costing you like next to nothing. It's crazy.
Yep. And minimizing the thinking. I just love that. Like, you can go watch Real Estate Uncensored. Greg, I forget his last name, like Callahan or something, but he does his cold call. He basically does live cold calls every single day at 3 to 5. And so some days he's like on fire. He comes in, he's just stoked for it and like just in his zone. And some days he comes in, he's like, it's time to do this. I'm going to do this. But there's no thinking involved. He literally, it's just the deal is 3 to 5, he does cold calls. So regardless of your state, like that's not, that doesn't impact anything that you should do. How you're feeling now shouldn't impact your to-do list. You have to go do these things, and you admit that. And I think when you take the kind of, I know agents are attracted to kind of a fluid daily schedule, and you kind of have stuff you get to go run around, and you get to you have more options. But if you don't use like some firm scheduling in certain parts of your business, then it ends up being a mess, and you end up being able to say, do I feel like doing this right now? Do I feel like I got a good blog?
Yeah. The second you ask yourself if you feel like oh my gosh, you've already lost if you're asking yourself that question. Like, you never, today's March Madness starts. I guarantee you, like if you want to be successful in real estate, work today, because 95% of the people out there aren't working today, and they didn't work Tuesday and Monday because of that like snowstorm that hit the East Coast, and they didn't work like next Thursday because their daughter is off of school and they're going to spend the day with them, and that's cool. Like, but you've got to like have some period of time and some commitments that you have in order to succeed. And I don't know. We've mentioned a lot of stuff here. I think maybe it'll be useful to you, maybe not. But that's sort of the talk we gave yesterday. We had a lot of numbers and figures in that one, so you can find that by searching 1 million cups Easy Agent Pro. And you'll find a video, and we present it about halfway through it at the 30-minute mark. So it's about an hour-long video. Our presentation was the last 30 minutes of it. So you can find it there. Pretty useful stuff if you're into growth and business and moving fast and stuff. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the podcast, Robert. Thanks for joining me.
Oh yeah, glad. I was. We missed Chris. Don't have as many jokes today, but
yeah, I know. No, this guy. Second Chris is gone. This turns into like the dead serious podcast for Easy Agent Pro.
This is real talk
No jokes.
with Easy Agent Pro.
We're rebranded.
Yeah. No, but I hope you guys found this podcast useful, and we'll be back with the full team next week, and looking forward to getting back to regular schedule.
Enjoy those basketball games.
Later, guys.
Thank you for listening to In the Lead. If you have enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher and leave us an honest review. For more great content, check out our blog at EasyAgentPro.com. And as always, we'll see you later.